Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto manga review. This one's going to be for chapter 74, which is called Baptism by Fire. So you will note that I didn't do a speculation discussion video ahead of this chapter. A couple of reasons for that. One, I didn't really have time in the kind of days leading up to this to add in another video like that. Two, I'm very much at this point with the Boruto manga where I need it to do something first before I can kind of, in a way, warrant putting time into doing another video that's not just a chapter review. It's just like, okay, Ada's gonna go live with them, they'll do something with that, but I'm sure it will be done with the intent of just stretching out the story. And it just feels like, sure, Boruto is sort of unpredictable, but it's sort of unpredictable in like a bad way, in that you can never have confidence in this manga to just deliver on kind of what is actually exciting and what is good. Beyond that, like getting into sort of general thoughts on the chapter, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was terrible, but I also don't think there's that much to praise about this one. In the grand scheme of what actually happened in this chapter, okay, Ada arrives at the village, but they somehow managed to have her arrive at the village in page 1 and basically don't really get much interaction between her and Boruto and her and Kawaki by the end, because they have Demon fight Boruto and Kawaki for some reason. Honestly, to me, it felt like just a waste page count. I get Demon has that reason for like, hey, I wanted to make sure you wouldn't try anything, but I don't think they were going to anyway, so it felt like you didn't need to do that. The other thing is that, again, I don't really feel that much happened in this chapter, but they are absolutely setting up that a ton of things apparently are going to happen in the next chapter, in that it seems like that's going to be the main chapter where we get character interaction between Ada and Boruto and Kawaki, and they're also teasing that the Amado reveal is going to come out. And my thing is just that, like, could you not have done one of these things a little bit more in this chapter and not left everything up to, oh, next chapter is the volume ending chapter. That's where we'll do the big stuff. And then we'll build up to something else. That's the problem, I think, with Boruto at this point. It is so clear that of every batch of 4 chapters that makes up a volume, very little happens in those first 3 chapters, and it's all to just have one moment in that last one. And we'll get to it in terms of, I suppose, some speculation about what may or may not happen in the next chapter. But like I said, this chapter I don't really feel did that much. So we get Mitsuki on the cover page, which is sort of fitting in that they kind of do something interesting with him as a character, but it's not that interesting. So again, like I said, first page here, Ada, Amado, Demon arrive like immediately. They are met by Shikamaru, Sai, and some other characters. They have the full kind of like amazing kind of introduction here. And of course, everyone who sees her is pretty much enthralled by her. Shikamaru seems to have a bit of a defense against it, but she's just like, you can skip this greeting. I know exactly what's going on here. Sai is affected by her, but not like too badly. She agrees to accept the cohabitation proposal. And Sai then is like, oh, I'll bring you to your lodgings. But what happens is that she's just like, no, actually, I don't need a guide. And she just starts to like fly, basically. Now, this is kind of a pretty big reveal in a way. At least I think this is meant to be viewed as something notable. Demon says, Big Sis doesn't like standing out. And I think this actually makes sense for her character. I know a lot of people are being very dismissive of Ada as just, it is very much greatly altering and affecting the direction of the series, because just the nature of the powers that she has, the type of character that she is, it is weird to have her be this character shaping like entity, like story shaping entity, basically, with the kind of weirdness of what's going on. But you understand that, like, oh yeah, the reason she's in not wanting to interact with people on the way here is because she fundamentally, unless it's for defense, doesn't like to just walk around the place and charm people and have everyone like falling at her knees, basically that sort of thing. So I kind of think that this makes a lot of sense. They point out, but like, you're flying, you're standing out quite a bit. Amado says it's not an uncommon feat. Flying is completely run-of-the-mill among the Otsutsuki lot. Even Boruto and Kawaki may start zipping about before long. Shikamaru does say, there's no escaping it anymore. This time you're going to spill everything you know. And this is going to be a setup for the end of the chapter. So it does feel like they're finally getting to this point where, okay, Amado is finally going to reveal some of his secrets, because there's so much that needs to come out from this character. But I think the Otsutsuki mention here is very interesting, because as far as we're aware, like, they've always presented Ada and Demon as they are humans who've been altered by Amado to become cyborgs, and he is the reason they have their powers. But now he's basically saying that, oh yeah, they're like Otsutsuki related as well. That's why they have this flight ability. Otherwise, why does he bring up Otsutsuki? I get he makes the comparison to Boruto and Kawaki, but they actually have been like Otsutsukified. Whereas I'm not fully sure what the deal is with Ada and Demon. So that's another kind of point in all of this that I just find interesting. Is like, is there going to be some sort of reveal here that the reason Amado was able to do such crazy things in terms of the powers he can give people, seemingly through technology, is actually that he had access to, I guess, Jigen, Ishiki, and potentially like other Otsutsukis? Because again, in the kind of other dimension where we have the Otsutsuki panels on the wall, there were those other like missing ones of like characters we've never heard about before. So I'm kind of wondering, is there some aspect there that's why they have such crazy abilities, is because they were like extracted from these other two Otsutsukis that we haven't heard about before? So the reason that they're such high level entities, Ada and Demon, is because they are humans who have been enhanced, but they've been enhanced by being given the powers that come from other Otsutsukis. Because I think that has to explain the whole reason why, like, Ada seems to have a full-on, like, special ocular jutsu. They're now explaining she can fly as well. Plus the attraction-based ability is kind of interesting. Similarly, Demon's ability with regards to the deflection ability, the ability to like reflect violence on people is kind of pretty crazy. But they don't linger on it too much here, but I'm guessing it's going to be an aspect of the explanation when it comes out. So we cut to the house that they're going to be using for this, where everyone is going to be living, and we see Boruto, Kawaki, and Konohamaru here. So again, I think we found out last chapter Konohamaru is going to be involved. Unfortunately, he is not utilized particularly well in this chapter, despite it being probably one of the most universal criticisms of the writing in Boruto. It's just that Konohamaru does not get used very well. And yeah, there's just a little bit of an argument between Boruto and Kawaki about taking it seriously. Kawaki looks at Boruto and has a little bit of a flashback to the kind of big moment from the previous chapter where apparently he spotted like Momoshiki behind Boruto. It's the only reference we get to it. No idea what they're particularly alluding to with regards to like the specifics of it, but it is what it is. Then we cut to Sarada and Mitsuki, who are watching them from kind of like the house nearby, basically, because that's obviously their part in this. We then get the Inoshikacho trio arriving on the scene. They're also going to head out. They're here because they're interested in seeing Ada. And basically Ada just arrives. She comes in from the sky here, and we see that immediately she glances over at them. Chocho and Inojin are immediately like enraptured. Mitsuki, it has an effect as well. It seems like it's just slightly dulled because he is not the most outwardly emotional character, but for him, this seems like quite a strong emotion. Sarada, who seemingly looks just the same as the other characters, doesn't really have much of an effect. And it's sort of the same for Shikadai, but he just mentions that, like, I can't quite make her face out. So it might just be with him a case of, like, he's a little far away. He can't quite make her out. He has bad vision or something. I'm not really sure. Otherwise, it's difficult to fully kind of predict what they're doing here, other than just from a writing point of view. There are certain characters where it would just take too much away from them to just be so easily swayed by such an ability. And I think it would look a little silly if you just had Sarada fall for it the same as the other characters. Similarly, Shikadai, they kind of want to keep seriously. It's the same with his father. So I get that. But I hope there's a bit more of an explanation behind it. Like, because I could absolutely understand something like, say, Sarada is not as affected by it because she's an Uchiha, and that's a more obvious bloodline connection back to Otsutsuki's, just because of the whole, like, origin of, like, why humans have chakra in the first place, in that some of them have that direct line back to Otsutsuki's. Others, it's because of the whole kind of sharing of chakra aspect. So you can see that idea maybe coming into play. We'll see what they do. So yeah, and then basically Ada walks into the house. Konohamaru spots her, and he has, of course, the most comical reaction of all, basically. There is, in between this, there is some discussion about, like, looks like, you know, Sarada particularly notes that, hey, Shikadai, you and I aren't really affected by her yet. What's going on here? Is there individual variation? Moegi arrives on the scene here, and is just kind of like, you know, stand strong, little Konohamaru. Don't, like, go drooling over her, basically. And of course, Ada hears this, notes that, and of course, Konohamaru is the worst. He collapses. He literally faints. So, look, I get it. You want to use Konohamaru as being a little bit more of a comedy character, but it feels at this point like this is just a character who exists to just constantly take this abuse in the writing, and I don't understand it, like, at all. But anyway, they Kawaki and Boruto spot Ada as well. But again, before they can even interact with her, Demon hops onto Boruto's back. They're like, wait, who are you? What's going on here? And Demon is effectively just being protective here. You guys are Otsutsuki. You're actually capable of killing Ada. So I'm going to deal with you now. So Kawaki goes to attack Demon. The reflection thing happens. And pretty soon afterwards, you know, there's a bit of a fight here. I don't really want to go too much into it because, like, okay, he activates his ocular power. Demon catches everything because we know he's the most powerful character in the series, of course. And he just kicks Kawaki in the face, knocks him out. Boruto attacks, and yeah, again, Boruto gets knocked out as well. And then right at the end of the chapter here, Kawaki wakes up with his head on Ada's lap. Boruto wakes up on the other couch. She does apologize for the harsh greeting. He's like, oh, that was unnecessary. Demon just says, I thought I'd show you from the very start that defying us wouldn't end well for you. Kawaki wakes up. Ada blushes. She again can't really speak around him. Then over the kind of intercom, Shikamaru kind of talks. Is like, have you met them yet? Yes. And Shikamaru just mentions that, okay, Amado's with us right now. Even I have barely any intel on the siblings, especially regarding Demon, plus various other things, but we're hoping to begin sharing all that. Alright, start talking, Amado. Don't leave anything out. No more secrets. And that's where it ends. So, again, it does look like we are about to get the full details here from Amado, but I don't like that the setup here is immediately that, is he going to explain to everyone how Ada and Demon's powers work again? We don't need that. If the explanation happens to be included in what is the origin of their powers, gone into a little bit more depth, and like I was discussing earlier on, that, Otsutsuki mentioned with the whole flight aspect, if he gets into that explanation of like, hey, this is why I can create beings that are actually more powerful than certain Otsutsuki, that's what we want to know. Why does he have technology that seems to be above everything else? Who is he? What is he trying to accomplish with everything? The only fear going into this, I think, really, apart from a lot of repetition, like they tend to do, is what if they decide that, oh, now it's time for code to interrupt? Like, because that's something that is going to happen. And it's this weird thing where if you just told me, like, okay, we're going to have a bunch of chapters where Ada lives with Kawaki and Boruto, I'd be like, yeah, you probably need code to interrupt that so that that doesn't go on for too long. But now I'm kind of like, no, please hold off on the code interruption until we get this information. Because they've teased it for so long, we need it at last. That's my general thoughts on this. You can't keep teasing it when it just needs to happen at this point. But yeah, like, that's the weird thing about this. Like, none of the action means all that much because we knew Demon was the most powerful. There really wasn't a chance for Boruto and Kawaki in all of this. It makes me wonder, like, what they're doing necessarily with them as such. It's a generally weird dynamic, and like I said, the series is unpredictable to a certain degree, but not necessarily in the most amazing way, because I think most people are fairly like skeptical of like how well some of these ideas are going to work as being where the plot is going. Other than that, it's just seemed like, hey, let's have lots of fun with Ada's powers, which basically just amounted to like a bunch of characters blushing and then certain characters not blushing and being like, hey, why did that happen? And it just feels like, look, I get it. You want to explain how her powers work in a little bit more detail, but they've done it quite a lot at this point, and it just feels like, please don't have this be the absolute focus of everything, when the aspect from Ada that we want to see is her actually talking to Kawaki, I suppose, primarily, but Boruto as well, talking to people who don't immediately fall for her. That's what we want to see, and we didn't really get that here. Other than the fact that it seems like she has no problem talking to Boruto, but she still has the problem with Kawaki. But again, that's a whole other problem of just, if we're going to be here for quite a while before anything happens, it just feels like, oh, here's all these like different bits and pieces that are going to happen along the way. Because I don't have that much of a problem if we do get a bunch of chapters that are just like seeing this character dynamic stuff happen. But I definitely think Amado's explanation needs to be something that gives the series a little bit more direction. Because, okay, the whole code thing is going on, but we don't really know exactly how we're going to get to the flash forward scene, and all this sort of stuff. So there's weirdness that is going on here that I don't really quite understand. The code stuff, like I said, has to happen. I'm guessing that will lead to something, but then if Demon's on the Leaf Village's side, then Code doesn't really have anything to do. Like, Code's not as much of a threat if Demon is allied with the village. So, I don't know. There's just a sense for, like, there's some good ideas, but overall, we're not in a particularly great place. As ever, pacing, not great. Why is this a monthly manga? Lots of that stuff. So, there are my thoughts on Chapter 74. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are, but that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.